Welcome everyone to another edition of Mortgage Whining. We're a bunch of mortgage guys whine about the mortgage business while drinking wine. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I got a great round table today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We'll start with Katie. Katie?
Hello, I'm Ceci. I work at Ross Mortgage as a branch manager. I have been there since 1997, so I think about 23 years now. I started with the industry by coming out of college, and my next door neighbor hired me, and it's been all uphill since then.
Cool. And I'm Jeff Clatterbaugh. I'm at Independent Bank. I'm the sales manager. I've been there for about 7 years, been in the industry about 22 years. As a small child, that when I grew up, I said, I want to get in the mortgage business because this looks like a lot of fun. And then I went to school for it and planned. And like most people, I fell into the mortgage business by happenstance.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And then always, my main man here.
I'm just a guy that likes to play around a little bit on Facebook and make videos. Some of you know me from the MLO network, where I just kind of entertain loan officers all around the country by asking the tough questions. And, in my spare time, I'm also a branch manager at Ross Mortgage in Brighton. Been at Ross about 5 years, been in the industry about 17. I like long walks to the closing table and a clean 1003.
I was like Jeff. I went to school to be no, I did not go to school to be a mortgage guy. Tim Pasquarella. I've been at Ross Mortgage for 20 some years, something like that. And I was hired by the same neighbor that Katie was hired by, although he wasn't my neighbor. And been in love with it ever since. So it's been a good time. So how's everyone doing?
Great.
Fantastic. Well, as we always do, we're going to go over a couple subjects here and get your guys' expertise. And hopefully the people that watch this can get something out of it. And I know with the people I have in this room, we will. So let's just jump right into it. So one thing that has really been on my mind lately, and COVID, I think I mentioned it before we came on here, is COVID fast forwarded it about 5 years in my opinion. And that is the customer experience with the changing technology for us, for traditional loan officers. And for those who don't understand what I mean, is typically in our business, a traditional loan officer is one that is usually getting in their car, going and visiting realtors, self-sourcing business, and doing all that. And then in return, they're getting referrals for business. And with COVID and everything else, who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what the outlook is? We don't know if the realtors are going to go back to the office. We don't really know what's going on. So how do you guys feel that the change in technology and the change in everything else that's going on has affected a traditional loan officer? Ladies first, we'll start with you, Katie.
Oh, goody. So we're focusing on the real estate aspect of it?
Yeah, I think, any aspect of it. I think the idea, I guess the better question would be, so up until a year ago, maybe even longer, maybe 2 years ago, most of our clients would come in, right? Mm-hmm. And that no longer happens. So how do you build the relationship with the client you never meet face to face?
Okay.
Is that better?
That's better.
Awesome.
Yes, got it now. Thank you. For existing referral sources, the biggest thing I found is everybody kind of went to these webinars and to teach clients and to kind of stay in front of their existing referral sources. So financial planners was a big one for us because they had always done kind of in person. And a lot of the financial planners that started once COVID hit, started doing these seminars, and that was a great help to be able to jump on with them, give them some, because mortgages and financial planning go hand in hand. So we were able to do that and really just educate them and really secure more clients that way. Obviously we were in a huge refi boom, so it was the perfect timing to be able to virtually meet with them and stay in front of their clients and get some exposure that way. The real estate community has been kind of tough. Just because it was such a face-to-face experience for us, we're just so relationship-based, that was a little tougher, especially getting them to use technology. They're very not as in tune with technology as the mortgage industry has to be at this point. So kind of teaching them how to use Zoom was fun in some adventures, but really just staying in that, did a lot of just drop-offs to their house, and just really was a good resource for them. Everything that had been changing due to forbearance and all these new words that we were learning during COVID, really just staying in front of them and really educating them on kind of what we're seeing in the market and how we can help them help their clients. So
I love doing this because I always learn something new every time I do this, and I never even thought about that. You teach them the technology.
Right.
That's a great one. That's a great one. What about you, Jeff?
Yes, interesting changes. I think one of the things that I experienced last year is we all were kind of in this together, right? Which is sort of good. So I felt like my good business partners that I'm really close with, that I have a lot of relationships, I talk to even on the phone more, like almost on a daily basis, and it was like, because we're in it together. And how do we figure this out together? Which was great, I thought. The Zoom technology was helpful, to a degree until you get, zoomed out. But it was nice to be able to see people's faces. And that part was nice. I've got several networking groups, and just to be able to see people still, and that still does help that bonding and that connecting. And I had, I met with clients that way. I met with new real estate partners that way through the Zoom, and it gives you kind of a sense of, who they are and what they are. And what they're all about, and that's kind of nice. So I think a combination of, I always say high touch, high technology, and putting them together, and it works. So that's some of the things I saw.
So basically, you utilize Zoom for the actual customers.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty
I do
cool.
meetings with the client to help go through things. It just helps them connect.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, that's part of my follow-up. What do you got, Mike?
I've always liked the concept of, when the market is zigging, I like to zag. I like to kind of stand out and find a way to do something that other people perhaps aren't doing. And one thing I found a lot last year was that a lot of mortgage lenders were spending a ton of time doing refinances and a ton of time just convincing themselves that they were super busy and they just didn't have time. I actually did the opposite. I said, well, what if I slow down a little bit and spend more time with the customers and more time with the agents? But I'm actually going to focus on the people I really, really, really like, and I want to do more business with them, or I want to get to know their whole family or what have you. And I'm like, this is a great chance to build relationships with these people, because a lot of them actually really need me right now, and I can really help them because of what's going on financially in this country. People are asking all kinds of questions about their money and about what's going on with the markets. And I'm, in tune and listening to Barry and trying real hard to understand it all. I'm going to spend this time to just step back and have longer conversations with them. Instead of just, saying, hey, here's my link, apply. I can save you, tons of money. Yeah. Catch you later. See you when I slow down. I said, no, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I might not be the biggest producer in America, but I'm really going to build deep relationships with these people that I like. Yeah. They might not have needed me in the last couple of years, but they kind of need me now. Yeah. And I'm seeing it this year. Some of the people I spent a lot of time with last year are sending me the referrals that I had hoped they would send me.
Right.
Yeah, it's differentiating yourself.
Yep.
I think it's really interesting. So before COVID, we were being pushed for so much technology, and I keep talking about traditional mortgage bankers, so I want to make sure I define it once again. We are self-sourcing loan officers. We don't get leads, we don't go to fax machines, we don't have anything emailed to us. Our leads are coming from us building trust, making friends, and having those leads come back to us. And pre-COVID, we were just being pushed out. We got to have a POS. We got to have a POS, point of sale contact, where the customer can go in. And it's funny because I think that as a traditional loan officer, I used to sell myself on the fact that, do you really want to go do a loan with a guy you're going to talk to for 30 seconds? You know what I mean? So Mike, you brought it up, so I'll go back to you on this one. So my sales pitch back then was always, well, yeah, you could go to Quicken, and yeah, you could go to a website, and it might be faster and all that stuff, but I mean, don't you want a professional doing it? How do you keep yourself out of the trap? Because I think we've all fallen into it at least once or twice, right? Where someone calls you, you're busy doing something else, and you literally have a 1-minute conversation with them and tell them to go to your website. And I just feel like that's for us, that's a recipe for disaster. So how do you catch yourself not to fall in that trap? So you just mentioned it. So what happens when you start slipping?
I know it works for me, and I don't know if it works for everybody, but for me, that 1-minute conversation, it's okay. It's not bad. Mm-hmm. What is bad is if that's the only true conversation that you have with that client.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I'm in those situations and folks are driving, or I'm driving, or it's 9 o'clock at night or whatever, I want to work hard to make sure I have a block of time. Mm-hmm. And so I'll say, like, hey, step 1, you're going to see this email from me. I know you got to do X, Y, and Z to get the information I need. Can you finish that, or can you commit to getting that done by a certain amount of time? And I put it back on them within a specific finish time. And then I say, if you can complete that by the end of the day, Saturday, let's talk Monday morning at 10. I'm going to put you in my calendar. We got a 30-minute spot. We're going to go through all the specifics, but I need you to do this, before Sunday night or what have you.
So yours is all follow-up.
It's setting that follow-up, but
Sure.
also giving them an expectation that you're going to do these things for me before the call.
Okay.
So that,
I like that.
I've pushed them to do some work for me in advance so that I can prepare and be in better shape to give them all the answers they need as soon as we call. And I tell them exactly that. I'll say, like, if you can do this, I'm much more prepared to answer all your questions because I'll know the things I need to know to give you the best advice.
Gotcha. So it's
And
not
that-
shooing them. It's not shooing them away. It's just
Absolutely
it's
not.
making your next
Yep.
conversation that much better.
Absolutely, yep.
I like it. Jeff, what do you got, bud?
Ask questions.
Okay, I love it.
Asking people questions is so important in conversation. I want to know what's important to them. This is all about them. They're buying a house. They're refinancing a house. They're building a house. I want to know what they need. I want to ask them what's important, why they're doing this, what their goals are, what their plans are, and help them put a blueprint together to help them reach their goals. And keep asking them more and more questions. And I always end the phone call with, is there anything else we have not talked about at this point that's important to you that we need to discuss? Which is
That's good. That's gold.
Right.
I'm never shooing them off the phone, right?
Sure.
I'm always giving the ball back to them to say, okay, what else? What else do you need?
That's gold. I'll never forget the worst criticism I ever got on a survey in my life was when someone told me I treated them like a loan number.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah, I was like, ow, man, I don't want to do that. And just for the
Exactly.
record, it was one of thousands. But I'm just throwing it out there. That one,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of surveys I've gotten, and that was the one literally, that's the one I remember. I was like, oh man, I
It was
cannot
loan 002.
Right. I cannot
Exactly.
treat them like
Learn
a loan
from
number.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Katie, how do you keep invested there?
I'm a good combo between Jeff and Mike. Really, the initial conversation, they come with all these preconceived notions of what they're going to get. They're going to get their grandma's mortgage that happened 40 years ago. They don't really understand, so that's kind of, where the questions come into place of, how much you're looking to put down, what areas are you looking at? The biggest one, what do you want your monthly payment to be? And all those things, I kind of get like a quick 10 minutes with them at the beginning, but I really push them onto getting all that information because, I want to have their whole financial picture before I start giving them advice that might not even apply to their situation. So really just the biggest question that I always end with, are you comfortable online, filling this out online, and giving all the security and all that stuff. And then I just go ahead and push it over, and then same thing, schedule that call, and that's really like the meaty call where you have the full 30 minutes that you're giving them all the time, answering all their questions, once you have their whole financial snapshot in front of you. And then you can actually prepare estimates based on what they could qualify for. We've also built into our CRM an automated system that will follow up for us on our behalf, so it looks like we're doing it, so we really never lose that good 10-minute conversation that we had. We're continually in contact with them to make sure that they complete that online application. And then after that, just really have the deep conversations.
That was a sneak peek of another question we're going to talk about.
Look at that.
So I run Ross Mortgage, but I also still originate. And if I could give advice to any young loan officer, and I know you guys are the opposite of this, but this is the one thing that blows my mind for so many loan officers today. And that is because of automation. Because of, we went through a, 10-year run, basically 2008 to 2018, where most companies said, how can we make it so the loan officers just sell? How can we make it so the loan officers just sell? We need to make it so they can just sell and we clean. They hunt, we clean, right? And we just got to do that, and that's how we're going to run our business. And everyone's going to love us, and everyone's going to come join us. And oh man, this is going to be great. And there is some truth to that, to be sure. But I am blown away daily of loan officers that are not invested in their pipeline. They were invested in the beginning, so they did exactly what we just talked about. And then it's let me know when it's clear. And that works, truth be told. It does work 70% of the time. But if you neglect your pipeline, that 30% occupies 100% of your time. So, Jeff, we'll start with you. How do you stay invested in your pipeline? Give these guys some advice.
So we're the rainmakers, no matter what, as a salesperson. And you always have to remember that. The relationship that you built with your partner, with your client, has to be paramount. And you have to remember that all the way through. And a lot of us here have assistants, LOAs, processors or other people in the transaction, okay? But we have to own it. And if anything has to be communicated this important, that's me, right? Period. And even to the point where just touching base. So say you got a really super smooth transaction and it's just going through the process and they're just going to close, right? You know, they're W-2, they get great credit, and it's just smooth. Pick up the phone, talk to them. One of my favorite things is I'm making a customer service call. And I'll say that right to them. I'm making a customer service call. How is the team doing? How are we doing? Is everything going great for you?
I like that.
And just touching base, you know, and it's just dropping that phone call throughout the process, you know, right before closing, right after closing, several times during the transaction, and staying in front. And as salespeople, you always have to own the transaction. You don't always have to do all the work, but you have to be the front person. So,
Yeah.
Katie, what do you have to add to that?
I mean, every Tuesday we have, Mark and myself, who are partners together, we contact every single client in our database that's active in our database. We contact the referral source that goes along with it, both the agents that go along with it. It's a sales activity. We do not call them to ask for pay stubs because my processor does that so well and I might muck it up. But we call to check in and we do the same thing. How are we doing? How's our team doing? You know, you're good with Amanda, Kristen's good, you know, all of that stuff. But every Tuesday we do a check-in with every single person that we have in contact just to let them know. I mean, because that's gold. I mean, those are the people that are going to refer you the best business. So, I mean, you just have to dedicate that time to make sure that they, you know, that you're in contact with them, make sure everything's okay. I mean, they could, you know, sometimes ask loan questions or Kristen's asking for this, you know, always referring back to her, you know, have my processor get with you to explain what exactly is needed. If you ever need anything, give us a call. But it's just really, I guess, feel-good calls, but just letting them know that, hey, we're still here, we're still working on your behalf.
That's gold advice is what that is. And I have the privilege of seeing your pipeline, so I know that must take you all day.
It does dedicate. You got to dedicate time to it. Put it in your calendar. Calendar holds you accountable.
Tuesday is blocked
Right.
for Mark and
Tuesday
Katie
is
Morgan's
blocked,
team.
yes.
Mike, what do you have to add?
Well, you guys bring up so many good points. It's hard for me to add anything that's any better. But I think for myself, there was one concept that I don't know who taught it to me. It might have been a guy named Dan Keller, who some of us have followed and listened to. But this concept of certain points in the transaction are more important than others. The clients don't get super excited when their title work came back clean, but they kind of want to know that they're conditionally approved, like their underwriting approval is back. And they kind of want to know that their appraisal is good. And they sure as heck want to know that they're approved, ready to close, and they want to know what their final number is. And I've watched a lot of loan officers take what could be Superman moments and pass them along to our team. So even though I may not be as structured as Katie, and it's pretty obvious for everyone that works with me that I'm not, I do try to, as I'm going through my pipeline, keep track of those stages and say, okay, well, this particular client's appraisal just came back. I know that we sent it to him, but I'm going to do kind of, you know, what Jeff had suggested on his client interview. I'm going to call him and say, hey, Mr. Client, I know we sent you your appraisal yesterday. You know, I know we've been giving you some updates. It looks like you got everything to Julie. We're still waiting on underwriting. Is everything going okay? Are there any questions that you have for us at this point while we're waiting?
That's awesome.
Yeah. So like I jump in at that important moment to confirm that the appraisal's back is good.
Right.
And, you know, so those are the points where I would normally jump in. I try to jump in on the appraisal. I try to jump in on that conditional approval. And I try to jump in certainly on that final approval. And then even on the final numbers, my team might have given them the cash to close, but I just want to call them one more time and make sure they really got that location and they really know what's going on with the wire and give them that last attaboy or attagirl. So
The one thing that you all just said, and the common theme was consistency. You know, every Tuesday, you know, every Monday, constantly. You know, I mean, I think it's the consistency is what makes you a better loan officer. Cadence of accountability, always doing something on the same day at the same time. You know, I think I think it really helps. I had a loan officer the other day call me up and he was complaining about the processor, and the processor had held on to the loan for a really long time. And no, it has nothing to do with anyone sitting in this room. But but you know, it had been 11 days, which truth be told was horrible, right? And I totally understood it. But I had to ask, I'm like, you never went over your pipeline in 11 days? I'm like, that's a long time. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. We got a problem here, and we'll figure out how to fix it and what went wrong. But man, a consistent Tuesday, Thursday pipeline, and this just does not happen. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where I think, I don't remember which one said own it, right? It's your transaction, you know, and I totally agree with that. And that's something that actually my old partner in the mortgage business, who actually is Katie's partner, told me. You know, and that's what he said. He's like, look, bottom line, it's your transaction. Your name is on the 1003. So you can kick, moan, and whine about however it went down, but nobody cares because it's your name on the 1003. Right. So you got to be able to own it. So that's really good advice, guys. All right, we're going to the next topic. So Katie obviously has talked to me in the past about this, and I know this is something near and dear to her. I want to talk about CRMs. It seems like before COVID, CRMs were getting to be a big deal. I know that Katie, you went to see Todd Duncan, and he had spent an hour talking about CRMs, and I know that
3 days.
3 days. And I was at Ross Mortgage. I've been at Ross Mortgage for over 20 years, and we've been through like 10 CRMs, right? And it basically the owner eventually gets sick of it and says, all right, I'm not paying for this anymore because nobody uses it. I don't see how we go into the future without using a CRM. So Katie, tell us, one, the importance, and then two, how do you get yourself to use it? Because man, that's been our biggest struggle, is that everyone knows it's important, but they still don't use it.
Right. Yes. I think it was 2018 when I went and saw Todd Duncan. His big whole thing that year was, if you don't have a CRM by 2020, you're out of business. Well, obviously 2020 came with historic rates, and nobody's going out of business in 2020, but it could be true for 2021. So the biggest thing, again, with using a CRM and implementing it in your business is consistency and knowing what it's going to do, knowing what you want it to do for you, building it, and then using it. I think a lot of problems with our past CRMs is that they're just focused on the closed client, which is great for the company, and maybe the client likes to get those messages. But really what you need to do as a loan officer is start using it at the first time you start talking to that client, and to your referral sources as well. Everybody should be in there. It keeps, it obviously gives us a little push with the automation. It keeps us in front of that client. It makes them sure that they're doing their job and their task as far as, you have to apply in line, and then the next one is your prospect campaign. You got to find a house, and here's all these, helpful stuff that we can help you in finding the house. Keeps our name from them, but it gives them good information, and biggest thing is it automates it, so it's working for us and working on our behalf. And it's also communicating to the referral source, hey, this is where this client is at in this process. And then again, the communication, the biggest thing any real estate agent wants to know is the appraisal ordered? Is the appraisal in? Is the loan approved? Everything like that. The CRM should automate that for you and send them, on-point messaging, keeping them in front of you, asking for the referrals in this messaging, and also generating tasks for the salesperson, so that the salesperson should have their CRM open all day long, and so that they're understanding what they should be doing at what point for either a closed, a current, a prospect, anything like that.
So really, it's part of your routine.
For sure.
Like that's just, if someone calls you, asks for a referral, like that's something you do. It's like, it's time to get it in.
Automatically.
So it's more than just reminding you that daylight savings time is coming.
It is, yeah, right. It is. That's very important as well, but
I would be lying if I said I didn't make some of those recipes. I would totally be lying. Some of those recipes are phenomenal. Mike, what do you got on CRM?
I think Katie brought up a great point, that it's part of your team, and you kind of need to work with your team to make sure everybody knows how to use it. I've worked with other loan officers, and I've kind of gone on this path myself and gone in and out of this habit. But one of the best habits I've seen loan officers use with their team is just establishing a rule for the whole team, themselves included, that, hey, if it's not in the CRM, it didn't happen. Right. I know you might have talked to Mr. Jones, but there are no notes in here. So the only person that can work with Mr. Jones is you right now. If you're out of the office, if you're on vacation, nobody knows what happens with Mr. Jones. So at that point, it's just literally that whole concept, Robert Kiyosaki, I business, we business, they business. You have an I business. You're the only person that can help Mr. Jones because it's in your head. So I think it's really important that loan officers learn how to explain what's going on in a transaction in their CRM and keep notes so that they can actually build a team, and the team can look at those notes and work together on clients. I mean, I'll admit, I'll be the first one to admit, I don't know if you guys would join me, but have you ever had a client that called you and said, hey, I just got my offer accepted? You just barely remember their name or what
Right.
they talked about?
It's on a sticky
No,
note in
guilty.
your office, right?
Never.
Guilty.
Right.
Guilty.
Like, was that FHA or USDA? Oh, it's
Yeah.
40% down conventional. Oops. This is a
Oh, it's
great
going to be an
client.
easy one.
Right. And then you're like, I don't even have any notes on it. And you're sifted through emails and sticky notes and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And that's actually super embarrassing. Even if the client doesn't know, you're just like, man, I can't believe I did this again.
You bring up a really good point, and I know Katie and her partner have been working on this, and I'll get to you, Jeff, is that you can't just let what it is be what it is. You got to work it. You got to tailor
Right.
it. You got to make it yours. Like, most CRMs come out of the box ready to go, but that might not work for you. You know, I mean, some CRM, I'm a big language guy, right? And people know if I write it or not. And I don't care that it's stock and all that stuff. I still want it to sound like me. Right, so you gotta work it. It is something that is not done quickly.
Tim, I got one thing to add to that.
Yeah.
Sometimes loan officers from Mortgage Loan Officer Network or Ross, they'll come to me and I'll tell them right in front, like, hey, I'm not great at my CRM, but they'll say like, hey, do you have some tips as to how I can be more efficient or get more offers accepted or deal with a bigger pipeline and that kind of stuff? And I don't even know why they're asking me because sometimes I have the same exact challenges. But one thing I always tell them is like, hey guys, do you have all your current refi prospects and all of your current pre-approvals sorted in one place? And it's like a blank stare if it's face-to-face or over the phone. It's just dead silence.
Sure.
Yep.
They don't even have their CRM set up to the point where they've sifted people out into different categories and groups. So I'll say like, guys, every Friday, do you send a message to all your pre-approvals? Oh man, how do I do that? What's CRM? Do I need Jungle? Oh wow, this is crazy. Oh, they act like it's really, really complicated.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you just spend a little bit of time learning how to sort things, you'd realize you only got 9 pre-approved clients, and you could probably just text all 9 of them.
Absolutely. Jeff, what do you got to say about CRM?
So I think it's a great tool to keep things organized. I agree 100% because like you said, Mike, I'm not going to remember all the details, so I have it all written down, and that helps so much. This is what I love about it is it keeps the loan officer in front of the client, which is critical. And vice versa. So on our program, it has a birthday. It's your birthday. I get a list of whose birthday it is. So it sends an email birthday. Okay, well, that's cute, right? For most of those clients, though, I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling them, wishing them a happy birthday. So now there's that personal touch getting connected to the technology, and that seems to have the biggest bang that I see out of it, which is great. Keeping track of everything. Client comes back to me after 5 years. Hey, call Connie. She's your realtor because I have it recorded. The realtor doesn't, right? Most of my business partners will call me for client information if it's years later because they haven't kept it, and they know I'm a valuable resource, which is huge.
I just thought you called me on my birthday because we were friends.
I did. Well, that's different. It's different, Mike.
Oh, way to pop a balloon, man.
I think the other thing is doing something different, and I've used my database for a Santa Claus letter for about 20 years now, and it goes out to all my clients, and they can do a letter to Santa Claus for their kids, their grandkids, their nieces, their nephews, whatever it is, right? It's a great marketing piece. People are calling me in middle of November, are you doing Santa Claus letters again? Yes.
That's a great idea.
Oh, that's
Personalized.
It is.
Yeah,
I
right.
actually did that with my kids.
Yes.
Yes, because
Yes.
I did a loan with you once,
Brilliant.
and I
Yes.
thought it was a great idea.
Yes,
That's
fantastic.
little Mikey
Yeah.
likes, bikes and trucks and all that, and it goes out. And I love doing it because I love doing it, right? It's fun, it's exciting, but there's the business side of everything, right? Come June or July, they're buying a new house. Are they calling Quicken or are they calling Santa Claus?
Right.
Yeah.
The mortgage
Great
Santa.
tagline.
I like it. And you know what? Another thing that just comes to my mind is it's also the database.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you just brought it up, which is so huge, right? I've always said database is data gold. And it's so true. Katie's absolutely right, right? And I think the nice part about the routine that Katie puts into it is that once they're in, they're in. And they're there forever, and now you've got their information. If you look at all the major companies in the world, Zillow, Amazon, Google, what are they all trying to buy? Data. That's what everyone wants. The iPhone wants data. Everyone wants our data. The only data we're gonna get is if you do a loan from us. So I think that not only using it up front and making sure your referral sources and your customers during the process are being informed, but informing them afterwards, that's where you're going to, that's where you take one loan and turn it into 7, you know, so that's awesome. All right, guys, well, Mike and I have talked about this a couple times, and we never do it, and I'm not going to forget to do it on this one. So we're going to have a little fun here. So we've all been in the business a really long time. So my question to you is, tell me the corniest marketing thing you ever did. Give me the corniest marketing thing you ever did. And if you guys want to think about it, I can start, because I got 2 of them, and it's a no-brainer. So my first one, and I literally wanted to fire this guy after he did it, but he was one of my good friends who was working for me. But I had this spot in this magazine that I used to do an ad for every month, and this was back in Birmingham, Michigan. And his friend Adrian Keogh, who owns Chris Marketing, made me look like a leprechaun during March. Do you remember that?
6'1" leprechaun.
I mean, and the best part is I never got to see this. Like I saw it for the first time when about 28,000 people saw it, and so it was, oh my gosh,
That's awesome.
It was awful. The only reason I bring that up is because to this day I have a group text with a bunch of golfing buddies that I mess around with, and the other day, St. Patty's Day, someone posted that picture. I mean, 15 years later, I'm still getting razzed.
Never going
on
away.
This picture of me that looks like a leprechaun. He's like, "Is this who we're golfing with this week?" And I'm like, "Oh my god." So that was by far the most corniest thing I ever did. Mike, what do you got?
I remember a long time ago, I sent out a bunch of letters to apartment complexes, and the letter was like, "Make your landlord hate you. Tell him you're breaking up with them." And then I had a little magnet where I was the first-time buyer specialist, and it just the letter itself was super corny, but it actually worked.
I love it. I love it. Jeff, what have you done?
So speaking of Todd Duncan, I did a lot of Todd Duncan-esque training too. It was kind of corny, but actually very effective. Is he had the delivery service of a letter to a real estate agent for a new realtor to set up an appointment, and we sent it in tubes, and the tube would come with the invitation letter to set up an appointment. Now, what are you going to open first? The tube. What's in the tube?
Right.
And it was a little corny, but very effective actually. So it actually worked.
My St. Patty's Day was not effective. I got
Yeah, you won on the corniness. Yes.
I actually had people not want to use me because of that.
They're afraid of you.
I became the down payment assistance expert.
Exactly.
Katie, what did you do?
I can't really think of a corny one. I have one that we still do to this day that I kind of feel is like a little corny, but we send to all our closed purchases, we send them a smoke detector, and then on their year anniversary we send a battery, but nobody uses those anymore, so I feel like it's kind of corny at this point in age. So that's where I go.
I remember 20 years ago when you said that, I thought it was super cool.
Yeah, right. But now they're all built into the houses, and they probably get thrown away.
All
so
hardwired in.
I gotta maybe rethink that plan.
That's awesome.
Right.
Or it could have been the one where I had a picture of my baby with no shoes on and said my dad needs a new pair of shoes. And I said, it said please help my dad get me a pair of shoes. I sent that out too. That was fun.
That's pretty good.
A lot of things that in today's world our compliance people would be like, what the heck is wrong with you?
Exactly.
There was definitely not an NMLS number on that.
Yeah. Good call.
All right, guys. Well, I want to thank you very much. I know everyone's super busy right now. The market is insane. Thank you for sharing all the tips and tricks. I really hope people that are listening got something out of it. I know I did. And just cheers, and thanks for whining a little bit about the mortgage business.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks,
Cheers,
guys.